All right, good evening. We apologize for the slight delay. We're going to go ahead and call to order the workshop session of the governing body of the City of Lampasas. For those of you seated at a safe distance from the person next to you, if you wish to remove your mask, you may do so at this time. First item on the workshop agenda is discussion and updates related to COVID-19 pandemic.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. It's always good to see you. I continue to have good news as it relates to COVID-19. The current trends are still spiraling downward as it relates to new cases, active cases, hospitalized COVID-19 cases, and fatalities in the state of Texas. There's currently 137,108 active cases in the state. Lampasas County has a total of 15. We continue to go down. That's always a good number. Let's see, several weeks back, we discussed the downward trend of hospitalized patients with COVID. That's where we were talking about if it's above 15% opening, 50% of the occupancy in the businesses and 75%. All across the state, all 22 trauma service areas are below 15% at this time. I think all these numbers are part of the reason why Governor Abbott set forth the action that he did last week that begins on midnight on Wednesday. Lampasas County currently has 2 people in the hospital from COVID-19. Bad news that I have today, we did add 3 more fatalities since the last time that we met. It's believed that these fatalities actually occurred in February. Nonetheless, they were 3 more fatalities that are attributed to the county of Lampasas. So we do have 28 total at this time. I do have some bad news, we currently are receiving vaccines from Bell County at this time. We're getting 200 doses per week from them. These are split up between, as we talked about already, the family medical clinic and also the hospital. There's been some discussion on a different message group that I'm with as far as this goes, people that were reaching out to Lampasas Family Medical to secure those vaccinations. If you're not a patient, can you get in there and everything? They're still working all the details out of that. As far as I know, the last discussion was please contact the hospital or these clinics and put your name on a waiting list. At least if you're on that list, you can start moving through the process with that.
And on that same subject, the conversations that we've had with the medical professionals is that they beg of people to be courteous and considerate. They've got a waiting list of over 1,000 people already at this point.
Yes.
We understand everybody wants a vaccine. We understand everybody's frustrated and impatient. However, the people that you're talking to on the phone have zero control of what's going on, and we only ask that you show compassion to those trying to get you help.
Yes, as always. A couple of things to add on that might alleviate some of the problems, but then also create some more problems. As you're aware, they've moved teachers up into the groups now that are available for vaccinations. Part of a good thing that goes good as far as here in Lampasas, I believe this Wednesday coming up, they're going to have a clinic at the high school. Hopefully they'll be able to vaccinate 110 teachers there at that location. Other than that, we're still waiting to hear from the Texas State Guard whether or not they're going to have a clinic here this week. I'm hearing that it could be sometime late this week, maybe even early of the next week. As we spoke last time, we're going to try to position that out towards Lomita. This is an effort that's done through the county and myself with Angela Rainwater trying to get them here and then to serve that underserved area that's up in that part of the county for us. Do you have any other questions as far as it relates to COVID-19 on anything? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is discussion regarding comprehensive plan status, priorities, and implementation.
Mayor and Council, this is a prelude to your public hearing that you'll be conducting tonight. It represents the statutory required hearing prior to consideration of formal adoption. Just a couple of brief comments related to the plan. This is a starting point. It's not an ending point. It's not something that now we're done and it's over. Now we're done and really the work starts. It does provide for benchmarks. It provides for periodic evaluation. It sets forth your direction for the next 10 to 15 years. In terms of the timeline, and some of this I apologize if I've rehashed it over the last 30 or 60 days, but our timeline was that probably after the 2002 plan was not adopted, there have been people that have been talking about the need for a comprehensive plan since then. Certainly, since I've been here, we did some initial land use inventory, reconciled some of the land uses to the zoning, particularly in the northeast part of town, and made those modifications in 2014. And I think maybe through a combination of market forces as well as more compatible zoning, we were able to do a tremendous amount of infill development at that time. It's been on the Capital Improvement Program Committee radar since 2016, listed as a CIP priority in 2018 and funded in 2019 by this council. We began work in earnest in the summer of 2019 with stakeholder meetings, staff meetings, releasing the survey, a town hall in August of 2019, and then our CPAC had their first meeting in September of 2019. To say that this was a smooth and consistent process is not accurate. Obviously, we had a huge hole with COVID, which resulted in basically kind of a February through summertime gap in our work, face-to-face at least. We still met with consultants over the phone, and were able to conduct some small group meetings over the summer of 2020. 1 and 2 were delivered in October 2019, 3 and 4 in February of 20 and on. We presented to Planning and Zoning in February of 2021. I believe it was a February 3rd meeting. We also had the Joint Council and Planning and Zoning presentation February 22nd. We conducted a formal public hearing March 4th at Planning and Zoning Commission. They, with some comment, and Becky, I believe, has those, but with some comment and nothing substantive, recommended unanimous approval to City Council. This is your opportunity to hear from the public tonight, later on the agenda. In terms of the statutory guidance, there are 2 locations in the Texas Government Code that provide some guidance to the implementation as well as the conformance with zoning regs. 2013, and this is what we've always said, you don't have to have one. You may adopt a long-range development plan for the municipality, taking into account land use, transportation, public facilities. Adoption or amendment after public hearing, review by Planning Commission, and consideration by Council. And I think the point I would emphasize is it says amendment. This is a living document. If for some reason trends change or needs change, Council certainly has the ability to say, this is a desired future condition, let's amend our comprehensive plan, and so it complies with what we're trying to do, particularly in terms of land use. It also says that your zoning regulations must be adopted in accordance with the comprehensive plan. And one of the items that we'll note probably later in this presentation is the importance of citing the comprehensive plan in all your policy decisions. When you take up even something as routine as a specific use permit or a change of zoning, there needs to be citation on that staff report, and that's on us that says this is where it's related to in the comprehensive plan, and therefore this jives with our zoning, and this is a compatible decision or policy based on the comprehensive plan. And if ever we don't cite that in the comprehensive plan, we anticipate and expect that you will call us on it, because that's we've got to use this as a day in, day out document. Just general observations, and again, I think I maybe referenced this previously. It is weighted on observation, vision, desired future conditions. What do you want to see your community look like? And I think this observation and vision is grounded in public input and engagement. Although I think there were times that we wanted more public input and public engagement, I think the one thing that we can say is that we did give the opportunity for public input and engagement. And as we implement this plan, these steps cannot be done successfully or appropriately without more public engagement, whether that's stakeholder groups or planning and zoning or town halls, however we try to roll out a specific goal or element. I think some common threads that we see is that the need and the desire to maintain character but allow latitudes for use. The kind of some of the hot buttons, but certainly not an all-inclusive list. It needs to protect, preserve, make our downtown as vibrant as it can be. Issues with Key Avenue and how do we create maybe more appropriate commercial blocks within that area, as well as dress it up a little bit. Mobility trails and sidewalks, that's something that's kind of a common thread throughout the document, and potentially design guidelines. The implementation schedule, which is primarily Chapter 6 that we've gone through and discussed over the last 30 or 60 days, that will be inputted based on the input from the CPAC, the Planning Commission, and City Council. So when we sat around and said, you know, we made some inroads to internet, but it's still important. It needs to be on the top of that list. That, you know, that's a near-term goal. We've got to continue to work on that and continue to work on it in the near term. So those types of things that were brought up in those meetings and that feedback we received will translate into the implementation schedule. It will require more precise action steps and require more robust public engagement. I'll run through these, and again, I apologize for kind of rehashing this. Growth and community character. These are all items from Chapter 5, which is the culmination of the observations, the desired future conditions, as well as the vision that our community told us about moving forward. The element of growth and community character talked a lot about housing, the need for diversity in housing, how we needed to create some amenities for folks traveling through our community and in our community and for our community related to retail and hospitality. Maintaining our character. Updating infrastructure and critical services. You know, making sure we do very thoughtful planning in terms of identifying those growth corridors and then matching our utility plans up with those growth corridors, or making sure if this is a growth corridor, the pipe in the ground, you know, half a mile away can handle this new growth in this particular basin. So those are all items within updating infrastructure. There's also, not only in this chapter, but I believe another chapter where it talks a lot about development in the flood-prone areas, floodplain, as well as the importance of the flood control dams. Land use and development, this is typically a major portion of any comprehensive plan. In fact, there are a lot of communities that do a comprehensive plan just to get a handle on land use and development. The major recommendation from this element was that you need to look at your zoning and subdivision regulations. Maintaining quality and character, allowing for some mixed uses, taking a look at some specific areas for their unique character, Key Avenue, East 4th Street, and then making sure we do a good job of identifying locations for commercial development.
Finley, could I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
At your last P&Z meeting, you said they had some comments and that they were in agreement with this. Did they offer up any ideas about how to implement the zoning and the regulations?
No, not so much about implementation. I think they agree that the zoning and the subdivision regulations, the review and rewrite of those was a pretty significant importance to them.
I didn't get that sense at
Their
our
comments
meeting.
were related to, I think there was I think the chairman asked for some rewrite on the historical background for the community, and as well as, you know, make the definition of downtown. But I think other than that, it was fairly non-substantive. So related to the implementation of the zoning and subdivision regulations, I think they were in agreement with what the plan said. They were all, I mean, they've all kind of been living this and understand the importance of getting those up to date.
Thank you.
Economic development, again, so this is kind of two pretty strong messages, the need and desire to create an environment for entrepreneurs through incubators, trying to create primary jobs, those kind of typical industrial development, economic development practices, and at the same time, the need to make sure that we have what I would call tourism infrastructure available for people coming in. That may be more hotel rooms, that may be creating the environment that would encourage folks to set up more hospitality-based businesses. The other thing is downtown development and possibly historic preservation guidelines. Mobility was kind of on everybody's mind, and I think everybody since I've been here and way before I've been here have talked about, trying to connect Hancock Park to Campbell Park, and how do we do that through a trail system or either overland or creek. So the whole walking, sidewalk, smart street development, that's all throughout within the number 5 element mobility, as well as the idea of truck traffic, trying to eliminate truck traffic downtown, making sure we're prepared for a relief route or a bypass, and then as well as the I-14 future development. Community facilities and services, and I'm proud to say that this is one of those sections that it's easy to check those off as an ongoing. Our public engagement through our public safety departments is there, it's strong, it's highly visible. We do a great job at the animal shelter. Parks Department, we fund, we plan, we promote, particularly through the CIP program. So those are items that we want to continue to do and emphasize that we do a good job there and continue those services. The one thing that I would think I missed is when we talked about, there were a couple of different areas where we talked about signage, branding, wayfinding, and updating infrastructure and critical services. And I think that was something that was a fairly common theme, as well as making sure that if we want to catch people on Key Avenue when they're coming to town, how do we tell them that we have a sculpture garden three blocks away, or is Hancock Free Flow Pool something that the traveling public would really know about and where to go? So that whole signage, wayfinding, and I think branding kind of becomes, maybe it's not almost a byproduct, but it sets us up for attracting some of those folks off the road. The edits, and I believe we sent these out to you by email, and I certainly have a hard copy if you'd like, but the narrative edits, we will get you a hard copy if you'd prefer one. I do believe we did email them out to you. They were generally non-substantive, as I said before. It's changes in the correct park name, spelling. It's trying to let people know that Key Avenue is also 190 and 281 and things like that. So if you have an interest, we'd certainly like to hear your comments for any potential edits. Certainly your public hearing comments tonight. If folks from the community have different comments, we'll take those into account. We will set this up for formal consideration on the 22nd, but you'll check off another box tonight by conducting your public hearing. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you had any.
I would like to mention, for those that are watching from home and wish to comment during the public hearing portion later in the meeting this evening, go ahead and have the phone number on hand, and that's going to be 512-556-0332. Does council have any comments? I know we've talked a lot extensively about comprehensive plan for a process that lasted much longer than we anticipated, through no fault of anyone, obviously. Once again, like we discussed at the last joint meeting, Delane and I will not be here come May, but the responsibility for this plan to be worth what we paid for it lies with the council and staff, making sure that you implement it, making sure that you refer to it. I think the idea that you're going to have on each agenda item, where not only did we at some point add the procurement process to be a consideration item, that how whatever agenda item you're considering ties back to the comprehensive plan, and council needs to be aware of that, consider that, and if it's not missing, it's your job to ask for it. So, Mr. Clark?
I just have one question in regards to it's reviewed annually during our budget process. Isn't that correct?
Within the plan itself, it does call for an annual review, and I believe it does reference the budget process.
And our planning.
But you can request a review of any item on the comprehensive plan if council deems necessary at any time.
Correct.
I just didn't want to make sure that we didn't wait 5 years if we had some changes in the community.
I just want to check with staff real quick. Are you picking up on everybody's voices, or do we need to focus a little bit better on that? Okay. Be closer, try to have the microphone underneath your mouth. Anything else, Finley?
No, ma'am.
All right. Moving on, next item, discussion and updates regarding Hostess House.
Mayor and Council, in your packet tonight, you have an agenda item related to the consideration of Reliance Architecture Phase 1. This is based on the input we received in terms of wanting to try to identify perhaps varying options in terms of a scope, and then once we do that, we would then move forward to a design based on the ability to, or the desire of council in terms of which scope you would like. So included, Mr. Naylor has submitted his proposal to us. This is the same firm that did our wastewater building, and I believe did a fine job for us. But be happy to answer any questions.
On the items that are not included, there was talk of ground usage, you know, the ground surveys and so forth. Are we going to need those at some point to work this, or is that's going to be an additional cost?
I would say potentially, and I can't speak as an engineer, but I can tell you that if you, and I'm thinking primarily of an elevator pit,
Right.
you would probably need the expertise related to geotechnical investigation at that point. But again, I would have to defer to Reliance on that.
And they'd outsource that. We'd hire someone else to handle that anyway, correct?
Correct.
We would not use this firm.
Correct. We'd hire a geotech firm.
Okay, all right.
But to answer your question more generally, yes, there may be other professions or expertise that we would need to hire out above and apart from Mr. Naylor's firm.
So the 6,000 that we're going to commit to is just for phase 1.
Correct.
So help me, because I'm not a subcontractor or anything. So in phase 2, I was unclear about the wording about what they would be charging us based on someone else's fees, is what I was gathering. Is that correct?
It would be it would likely also be based on the scope as well as the contracted price as a percent of the contracted price. I believe that's how the contract was for the wastewater.
Okay.
Council have any more questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5 on the workshop agenda is discussion regarding new IT computer policy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What I laid on your dais just now is an actual little exhibit from our personnel policy. A few weeks ago, Monica had come to me, who is the IT director, and asked about updating our current IT policy that we currently have that is given out to staff upon hire. And she was trying to figure out the best way to amend it and update it and get it more usable based on today's technology. So when going through the personnel policy, we found that this section was already incorporated, and we already do personnel policy amendments by ordinance. So it was a good fit for us to utilize this type of route to be able to amend and update the computer policy as needed going forward. So this piece that's yellow is basically going to be removed from the personnel policy, and it'll be referred to the actual computer policy that has been adopted or will be adopted in the future. And part of that caveat is that upon hire by any employee or even new existing employees, all of that education will be handled directly through the IT department. So they will take the time to educate the employee on what this actual policy means and what it is going forward so they understand what they're signing. So where this came to is that the previous policy, I believe, is over 15 years old. So it's very dated. And we didn't know how it was originally adopted, but because it was in our personnel policy, we felt that was the best fit. So I will tell you that inside your packet, there was the actual policy. The new policy is included for y'all to read through it and review. If you do have specific questions, there are 12 items in there in the specific section that Monica can speak to if you have any specific questions regarding that. The IT department has made some more amendments and modification based on clarity and definitions. So the final version that you will get at the next meeting will be a little different, but the same content. So none of the content has changed. But if you have any questions specifically, we can more than welcome to address those.
Did you want to say anything, Monica?
I'm here for questions or answers if you have any questions, sorry.
Does council have any questions?
I did have one. Ordinarily, in a huge corporation, you're given so many times to make a mistake when you open up an email that you shouldn't, that's going to cause a virus. And at some point, you're terminated if you continue to do that. I didn't notice it in your policy, but it seems like you have the correct wording for all that. Is there some penalty for continuing to abuse the system?
Do you find the need for one if there's not? That's also maybe a follow-up.
We just do our best to educate. Christy's really good about sending out documentation, information on what to look for. Cybersecurity has changed so much, and now that we are required to take the state training, all employees, we're putting out more documentation, more information. Christy's real good about, sending out example emails, what to look for. And so we really haven't dealt with, I guess, punishment in that way yet.
Do you have repeat offenders / problem children in this area? No?
No. Staff is doing a really good job, and they're really good to notify our department if they're not sure, and they're doing a really good job with that. And they also do 5 cybersecurity trainings per year, and they ask questions as needed.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, TJ? Okay.
And I will say, part of the cyber training, we do get like dummy emails sent to us to test us. So making sure we're paying attention to what we're being received, and they'll let us know if we got it wrong. So, there is a check and balance on everything that we do.
Great.
Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
Thank you, IT department.
Thank you.
Discussion regarding any item on the regular agenda. Does anyone wish to discuss an item that will be taken up later on the regular agenda? Do I have a motion to adjourn workshop?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Chuck is here. We will take a 10-minute break and reconvene. Good evening. We're going to go ahead and call to order the regular session of the governing body of the city of Lampasas. If you would all please rise at this time and join us in invocation and pledge. Chief Bailey, if you'll please lead us.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings that you've given us today. Lord, we ask that you watch over this meeting and that you guide us and direct us to your will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
We do have a proclamation this evening. Whereas Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, as amended, prohibits discrimination in housing and declares it a national policy to provide within constitutional limits for fair housing in the United States. And whereas the principle of fair housing is not only national law and national policy, but a fundamental human concept and entitlement for all Americans. And whereas the anniversary of this national fair housing law provides an opportunity for all Americans to recognize that complete success in the goal of equal housing can only be accomplished with the help and cooperation of all Americans. Now, therefore, we have affixed our signature on this, the 8th day of March, 2021. Moving on to public hearings and citizens' comments. Item 1, citizens' comment. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter not included on the agenda may do so at this time. The city council may not deliberate on items presented under this agenda item. Does anyone wish to speak on an item that is not included on the agenda? Again, the phone number to reach us here in the chambers is 512-556-0332. Item 1.2, citizens' comments. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter that is included on the agenda may do so at this time. Do we have anyone that wishes to speak on an item that is included on the agenda? Item 1.3, public hearing to receive citizen comments regarding the draft comprehensive plan. We discussed this in workshop agenda. Is there anyone that wishes to speak during this public hearing portion? Do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. 2.0 minutes. 2.1, discussion and possible action concerning approval of minutes of the special meeting on February 18th, 2021.
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here, but I did notice that Delana is not included as a member present. So I would just make that correction if anyone else wants to.
I would make the motion to approve with that amendment.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous with one abstention from Ms. Monroe. Item 2.2, discussion and possible action concerning approval of minutes of the regular meeting on February 22nd, 2021.
And again, I didn't notice any corrections here, so I would make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to the consent agenda. 3.1, discussion and possible action regarding purchases and charges in excess of $4,000 from February 1st through February 28th, 2021. And item 3.2, discussion and possible action regarding the second reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lampasas, Texas, amending Ordinance 1148, which adopted the 2006 City of Lampasas Personnel Policy Manuals, Section 4.0, Types of Employment, subsection 4.02, concerning introductory period for promoted and/or transferred employees, amending Section 5, Employee Compensation and Advancement, subsection 5.08, concerning longevity pay for employees with 25 to 29 years of service and employees with 30 or more years of service, amending Section 8.0, leave time, subsection 8.03, concerning the use of accrued vacation leave, subsection 8.04, concerning the use of accrued sick leave, amending Section 10, health and safety, subsection 10.4, concerning the use of accrued leave to be used to supplement workers' compensation for on-the-job injuries, revealing conflicting ordinances and/or city policies, including a severability clause, and establishing an effective date. Does anyone wish to pull any item from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. We have no board and department reports this evening. 5.0, routine matters. 5.1, city manager's operational report.
Mayor and Council, just a few brief comments. We did meet with the interim chief appraiser for LCAD February 25th to talk about the reappraisal process. As council may be aware, the reappraisal is primarily driven by the school district and the state funding formula for schools. In other words, if they feel that you're being underfunded on the local level, they can withhold funding on the state level. The interim chief appraiser has conducted 3 separate tests on this item, and And I think everybody here understands what's going on with housing in Lampasas, and all came up typically between 10 and 12 percentage points lower than market value. The reappraisal letters will go out on May 1. The byproduct, or the issues it will create, actually not issues, but it will increase obviously the valuations. However, our effective rate will then drop. So it may be the same dollars, but it will be a process that they'll go through to get up to a market value. And just as a reminder, 65 years and older homestead properties will not be impacted unless those properties themselves have been improved. And homestead valuation increases are capped at 10% per year. Also talked with Libby Blunser this past week about vision, and they have some pretty aggressive plans to begin working on behalf of the city for a gateway monument on South 183, lighting in and around the courthouse, possible, this may be a 2-year process to fundraise for a permanent sound system on the bandstand. She's also pleased to report that they painted 148 doors and windows in the downtown area for the holidays. That's up, last year they only did 48. So also looking at revamping some of their Christmas programs for 2021. We are very fortunate to have that army of volunteers work on the city, and very, very grateful for all that they do. Development, just a couple of quick things. The Aaron's has been knocked down. We will be having a meeting with Whataburger on March 10th as a pre-construction. We also are reviewing plans submitted by SEFCO for development at 190 and 4th. Mandy also reports that we continue to receive additional interest from prospects, and council has probably noticed the decommissioning of the concrete plant and the removal of the batch mixers at the city's industrial park on 580 East. Atmos, they have been running around doing kind of disrupting things. They have been looking for leaks, particularly right after the winter storm event. They will investigate, sometimes by drilling into the subsurface area, and then if they need to make repairs, obviously excavating. And we just want to let folks know that Atmos does do a pretty reasonable job of returning those surfaces to their pre-existing condition. Stakeholder meetings, at the direction of council, we have started to prepare information for the after-action report related to the winter storm event. We've had 3 stakeholder meetings with public safety officials, utility folks, dispatch. We've also talked with healthcare providers and then county and community service agencies. Mandy has been having trouble getting all of the businesses together in one spot and location, and she has, as she always does, kind of goes out of her way to visit with those folks one-on-one and get the information that's pertinent to this event and ways that we can assist them. We're currently doing sewer averaging. That's where we average your water usage for the 3 months, December, January, and February, to determine your sewer rates, and it's been complicated somewhat by the snow event, or the winter storm event, particularly where folks have had ruptured pipes. So just to let you know what our staff is doing, we are sometimes taking a look at what February was in 2020 and 2019 and using that February number, particularly if you had to burst pipes. I think Yvonne has suggested that if they even had to use 2 months, if it kind of historically made sense, they would do that. So they are going out of their way to make sure that people are not penalized in their sewer rates for an event that happened this February during the averaging. We're also continuing to encourage people to use the city's leak forgiveness program in the event they did have ruptured pipes and lost a lot of water. Pole barn, this is a great story. We in the right place at the right time, but we were able to, with the help of a local contractor, take down the old Spring Hoe building, and that's been taken down and taken to the cemetery, where we had budgeted this year for a pole barn out there. The dollars may end up being the same, even though the building was free, because we'll actually put a slab in a portion of it and maybe do a little more with lighting, but they will have a much larger and much more substantial building. So we're real pleased to report that was able to happen, and I appreciate the staff that worked on that, Frank Ellett and Ronnie and also Mr. Roy. Governance policy, that is included as a draft. Council may be aware the last time we looked at this was about 2017. Staff recently saw another policy and thought we'd put something together. It's simply on here as a bedtime reading at this point. If in the event you would like to take it up at a future meeting, please feel free to let us know, and we'll be happy to put it on. There may be some elements you like, some elements that you would rather remain the same, but we'll look forward to your future input and direction on that. Campbell Park, we have submitted site locations to the Geotech, and Langerman Foster's suggested they're going to get us something fairly quick in terms of a proposal for Geotech. We have also discussed and updated stakeholders on the status of the projects and the selection of design-build firms. We're sorry to report that Jerry Hobbs is going to be leaving us at the Citizens Collection Station. He just did a great job. He helped people unload their stuff. He was always very fair in how he measured up loads, and just was a great person, provided great service on behalf of the city. We understand he's going to be enjoying the country life and playing a lot of golf, and Ricky is currently working on plans to fill the position.
Finley, are we going to have to use a permanent employee to man that in the interim until we hire somebody?
He's not leaving till the 20th, and I don't know if we'll transition quickly, but we may have to sub.
I just curious. We were going to had to do that in the past.
I'm looking at some ideas to like maybe open it from Tuesday through Saturday, 7 to 3. We're getting a lot busier, a lot more people coming in, a lot more people utilizing it, because the hours just don't seem to be good there. So I'd like to make the full-time position and just have it closed Sunday and Monday.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Could I say, Becky or Finley, I noticed that the newspaper, the Dispatch, still has the town hall meeting on the 11th. I didn't know if they'd changed that yet or not.
Yes, ma'am. I believe they pulled that from a Facebook post from before when we were initially looking at dates, and I have talked to the newspaper since then, and they do know that it's going to be on the 22nd.
Okay, thanks.
Moving on to item 5.2, mayor's comments. I think he probably spent his entire day thinking that I forgot, but it's Finley DeGraff and Reed's birthday, and I did not forget. I just wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to embarrass him.
Are we going to sing?
Are we going to sing?
You are very lucky in the sense that this meeting includes microphones and a recording, and there's not a chance that I'm going to let anybody catch me singing. So we're going to skip that part of the birthday wish. But on your day, just know we appreciate you and we're glad you're here. 6.0 unfinished business, we don't have any. 7.0 new business. 7.1 discuss and consider engagement of services with Reliance Architecture LLC to provide overall design and coordination of other structural, MEP, life safety, and accessibility disciplines for the Hostess House Rehabilitation Project. We did discuss this in workshop. Does council want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve that proposal.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additional questions or comments from council? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. 7.2, discuss and consider interceptor capacity study proposal from Eckerman Engineering in the amount of $35,250.
Mayor and Council, as Councilman Clark correctly pointed out, this item was to be revisited at some point during this budget year for potential funding. A couple of things to keep in mind. We do have an item on the agenda that will actually be in the general fund budget that was an unexpected expenditure. However, if council so chose to look at this project, currently we're sitting about 40% of our operating expenses in the water wastewater department in reserves. So it's something certainly you could consider. Staff is a little cautious about it at this point, but certainly if you wanted to do this, you could. It would potentially require an amendment, although there's a good possibility it could also be absorbed within the current budget.
I have a motion from council for discussion.
I'll make a motion for discussion.
To approve.
Approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Toops. Open for discussion. No comments, no questions?
Y'all know how I feel about it.
Remind everybody. Do you want to remind everybody?
Oh, I just, it's gonna be a perfect time. I am concerned with the budgetary aspects of it, and, I wouldn't object to waiting, another few weeks on it if we need to address it at another meeting. But, I want him to feel comfortable about it. It's something that needs to be done for the community. We don't have, none of the staff, no one that I have found has any idea the current capacity of our interceptors throughout the city. We continue to have growth and building, and I want to make sure that we're able to get the wastewater from the new development down to the wastewater plant, and that we have the capacity to do that, that we don't have to knee-jerk reaction of having to deal with that at a future council meeting and saying we just don't know. So
My understanding is you agree this is something that needs to be done. Do you have a different timeline of
I
how we
would
go
like to
about it?
bring this back at the meeting on the 22nd, if that's acceptable to council.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. Finley brought that up to me today, and if he's still concerned about the budget due to current issues that are going on,
If council prefers to wait to address it at the next meeting, we will take a vote, because we do have a motion and a second in favor. You just would simply vote nay, and that will, the council would have, staff would have the opportunity to bring it back to us. At this time, do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second in favor of approval. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nays are unanimous.
Mayor and council, we understand the direction of your vote.
Item 7.3, discussion of possible action regarding the award of a contract for 3rd Street culvert and paving improvement to M&C Fonseca in the amount of $101,525.
Mayor and council, this discussion is actually regarding the award of the contract for the 3rd Street culvert and paving project in the amount of $101,525. If y'all remember, this is when LCRA was in there doing all that. We noticed a compromise in the road. And you can see what the job is and our recommendation. I also have Travis here with Jones Heroy, if y'all have any questions on this. But the recommendation is to approve and award the contract for the 3rd Street culvert and paving improvements to Fonseca in the amount of $101,525. And they say once the bid is awarded, they'll be done within 45 days. That was part of the bid process that Travis put in there. We couldn't wait 6 months for somebody to do the job. So not only they were low bid, they also could be finished in 45 days. Any questions?
Have a motion from council?
Move to approve.
I'll make a second, but I did have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm confused as to whether this is East or West 3rd Street.
West.
West.
Okay, because here it says East, and I was getting.
Does
real-
it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Oh, it does. Yep.
I was
Sorry about
getting-
that.
I
Good
was
catch.
getting really excited about me too, West 3rd.
And this is West 3rd where
Yep.
yeah.
Where the road has been closed for quite some time, and I
Yes.
cannot wait to not answer any more phone calls.
I get 'em too.
Complaining about the 3rd Street being
Yes.
closed.
Been too long.
It has.
Yeah, it's been too long.
Because they think that they can see a way to get around it, and they just want that opportunity. So let's go ahead and fix it so we don't have anybody going speed lunking
Down through
underneath.
there.
Yes. So we do have a motion and a second. Any additional questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Ricky. Item 7.4, discussion and consideration for approval of payment for the expenditure of $333,880.69 to Motorola Solutions Incorporated for the Lampasas Public Safety Communication System Upgrade Project. You're really expensive tonight, Chief.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This project is moving forward. We had a little stall because of the ice and snowstorm in February. The vendor had to stop and take care of departments whose radio equipment quit on them. We were very fortunate that although ours did have a little glitch, we were able to get it going again. We are asking that we be allowed to pay $333,880.69 to Motorola Solutions Incorporated. Once this project starts, it will be very quick.
Do I have a motion from council?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, everybody wants in on this one.
Long overdue.
I do have a motion from Ms.
Long
Monroe
overdue.
and a second from Councilman Williamson. Any questions or comments?
This is what was already previously budgeted, right?
I'm sorry.
This was already previously budgeted.
Yes, this is budgeted through CIP projects.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous.
Thank
Before-
you.
Thank you, Chief. Before we move on to the next item, I want to point out to council that we're not going to have happen what we had happen last time. This is the easiest agenda item we have. If we don't get a nomination, we'll sit here all night. I won't let us leave. Item 7.5, discussion and possible action of a website photo contest winner.
I'll make a motion to approve entry 3.
Do I have a second for entry 3? Oh, here we go. Fail for a lack of second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for entry number 3. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. It was unanimous.
Thank you.
They are, well, very good. And who knew all it took was a little bit of snow and everybody got camera happy. Item 7.6, discussion of possible action concerning approval of a new 5-year lease agreement between Holt Caterpillar and the City of Lampasas Water Department for a new 2021 420XE CAT backhoe and a new 2021 308 CR CAT excavator for the amount of $3,521 per month, $42,256.80 per year.
Mayor and council, this item is going to be moved to our next meeting.
Moving on, item 7.7, discussion of possible action regarding the first reading of an ordinance to amend the personnel policy, specifically adding a new use of technology policy. We did discuss this during workshop. Do I have a motion from council?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second from Ms. Keeney, actually. She got in there before Mr. Williamson. Questions or comments?
Whatever.
Then give it to Chuck. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. 7.8, consideration, discussion, and possible action concerning award of the engineering services contract for the preparation of the city's 2021-2022 Texas Community Development Block Grant, TX CDBG application, and subsequent engineering contract if funded.
Mayor and council, this item was discussed and the ratings were done for the engineer firm, and it was selected for Eckerman Engineering.
I would move to approve Eckerman Engineering.
I'll second.
To help prepare the application.
I have a motion and a second from Ms. Toops. Questions or comments from council? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. At this time, do I have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Got a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The City Council of the City of Lampasas, Texas will meet in closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Codes, Chapter 551 as follows, Section 551.0711A and 551.0712, consultation with attorney by telephone and/or in person concerning matters upon which the attorney has a duty and/or responsibility to report to the governmental body and/or other matters posted on the regular agenda. Item 8.2 would be under Section 551.086, relating to the authority of public power utility governing bodies to deliberate regarding competitive matters utilities.
Mayor and council, I'd ask that the assistant city manager also be allowed in executive session.
Okay. We have adjourned from executive session and now reconvening in regular session. Item 9.0, action on executive session. 9.1, discussion and possible action concerning items posted and discussed by council in executive session. We don't have any action items coming out of executive session. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening.